Sure.
I think it's a 20, oh, it's a 50-second video.
I think we can allot 50 seconds where everybody comes to their chairs. And if I could say something while we're doing this, and I just want to kind of drive home one of the points that Dr. Marzak made. I think the bigger concern that he has, and I think rightly so, is if you notice there's a whole lot of green space still there. And I think that's the issue that really is more troubling as we move forward, is that there's still a lot of room. Even though there's a lot of houses and there's still a lot being built, there's still a whole lot of room right there for more houses to be added. And the trend lately in that area has been, as you can see to your upper left there, are the condo type units where they're high density homes, and that's what they're starting to add more and more of.
Could I also say, if you could show aerial footage of all the traffic flow at the high traffic areas, that will be greatly appreciated too, because I think they'll see a lot more involved in that during school hours.
Right, and you can see over.
Okay. If that's so, we'll take this and call the Zoning Facilities Committee to order tonight. Let's see here. In attendance, we do have myself, Mr. Bates, Ms. Kinzer, Mr. Beaver, Mr. Atkinson, Mr. Dudley. We also have Ms. Morency, Mr. Dudley's on it. Mr. Pennings. Y'all are going to make me mess up tonight. Ms. Martin and Ms. Parker. All right. Everyone's had a chance to look at the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve that agenda? Motion approved. We have a motion to approve that and a second. All in favor of approving that motion, say aye. 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 That does pass unanimously. Any opposed? Sorry. We do have the minutes as well in the agenda. If everyone's had a chance to review those, do we have a motion to approve those minutes? Okay, we have a motion, and I'll call that a second as well. Any comment on that? Otherwise, all in favor of approving the minutes, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And that passed unanimously as well. All right, first thing we do have here is the capital projects report. We can start with A, the Hewlett Spencer Bell and Associates report.
Let me, and as Jamie's coming up, let me just speak that because the meeting was very early this month, we just got in today the normal report we send out to you that is made from the third party. Look at that. So we have not distributed that, but I mean, I have that if you have any questions we want us to put it on screen.
I think probably best, unless you have something urgent to tell us about, we can just include that on the next month's agenda and review it at that time. And again, if there's nothing out of the ordinary, I think
nothing.
We can
it was
on.
Just very.
Okay, thank you, Stan.
No concerns.
If you guys are like me, you probably just flip through and look at the pictures, right? Everything's on time and on schedule for the Phase 2 at Columbia Central High School. So that's about what I have to report. I do want to remind the board, I think Dave Hall sent out an email. One of our major subcontractors on the job is the Lee Company. In fact, they donated some of the larger portions to the concession stand building. They've been really good to Murray County and to us on this job. They're actually bringing a burger trailer. They have a trailer they pull, and they do a big cookout for all the workers on the job site. That's scheduled for this Monday. So if any of the board members would like to attend that around 11:30 and eat on the Lee Company, they'd like to invite you to do that. And then we can put a hard hat on you and show you the new gym, the auxiliary gym, and the cafeteria and kitchen after we eat if you want to show up. So just a reminder, if anybody wants to do that, it's 11:30, Monday, November 7th.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And
Okay, good. I'll save you a big, thick, juicy.
thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, next item we do have, unless anybody have any questions on that? Otherwise, we'll move on to the next item, which is the train report.
And I'll just speak to that. Mr. Tyne is here, and I told him you probably wouldn't want anything other than ask questions, but as you know, we continue to have some projects going on, so there's a report on those projects there. Again, everything is as what we've talked about. It even addresses in there some things that were just approved at this last meeting, some additional projects. So he's here to answer questions if y'all want him to. I'm sure he'll speak to the report if you want him to.
Okay, board members, we
appreciate
do have
being
that in
here.
your agenda. If anyone has any questions on that, you've had a chance to review it. If you have questions, Mr. Dudley.
We're fast approaching fall break or winter break, whatever we want to call it. Do we have any projects planned with train during the winter break, and are they still on track?
Yes, we do. We have the boilers being installed currently, and with the temperate climate we've had this month, we've been actually pulling them ahead instead of waiting for the fall break. So we're actually ahead of schedule for the fall break work.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
The next item we do have is the project cost report. I know this has been recently updated as we've kind of moved on with the way we're doing this now. Stan, do you have anything to add on this?
We show the things there that we're working on right now. We have been able to, everything that was approved last Thursday night, we've already issued purchase orders and got the group, everything's been handed out to the vendors and they've begun work on it, including, the stuff with Train, the roofing consultant we were talking about, the bleacher inspections, a lot of those kind of things. So we're off and going with all of that. There's a very few things on the agenda tonight, and they're noted on there in red. They were asking for your approval, but really everything is as it was. There's not a lot of change since last month.
Thank you, Stan. Does anyone have any questions on that? All right, I don't see any there. All right, the next item we do have is there's a requirement for a vote here. This is for warning lights for Spring Hill Middle School, attachment 5.
I will speak to that. This is an issue that really is not one that we brought out originally. We actually were questioned by a county commissioner because there are not any flashing lights noting the school zone at Spring Hill Middle School. Really, that has to do with kind of a long-standing disagreement as to who the responsibility of the road is there in front of the school. Kind of goes back, and this is before my time, so I'm really kind of saying hearsay. When the school was built, there was maybe some disagreement between the county and the city of Spring Hill as to school's location, who's going to take care of the road. The county did do some road improvements up to a certain point. And in all of the other places where we have schools, the caution lights that flash that say it's a school zone are put by the local municipality. If it's in the city of Columbia, those are provided by Columbia. If it's in the city of Mount Pleasant, those are provided by Mount Pleasant. If it's in the county, those are provided by the county. Because there's been a disagreement on who's actually responsible for the road, nobody ever put any up, so there never has been any. So the county highway department commissioner approached them. They've agreed to do that, but they've said they really don't have the budget funds for it, and so they've asked if we'd be willing to share in the cost. So what we're asking is if we could split the cost with them. The total for the two signs would be the double of this. It's whatever that comes out to be, $5,888, that's what it is, I think. So that's the total, and so we're asking that we would take from capital funds and fund half of that.
Okay.
Put those up.
As this came up, I know this is an issue, and there was some mention in the emails there too. I guess for me, I was pleasantly surprised to see that it wasn't as expensive as I was kind of worried it would be. But I guess the bigger issue for me, and I would definitely like if we could have some information at a later date about what are the condition of other safety measures at all of our schools, because I honestly don't know. I think it's been kind of a hodgepodge of various devices or ways it's been handled in the past. Do we have an answer on that?
And Mr. Perriman really probably is better
glad
answer
he's
that than
here
me,
tonight.
and he's here. But I think at all of our other schools, we have those flashing lights. We have those flashing lights. Also, the city of Columbia provides crossing guards at all of our elementary schools that are in the city limits. They're the only ones who do that. City of Spring Hill has provided some traffic control at Spring Hill Elementary at times. They've done it very infrequently at Marvin Wright, but some at Marvin Wright. But primarily, we depend on those groups for that kind of sport. Our SROs are involved in traffic control at schools, so that's really kind of the extent of it. And again, you can speak to that.
Yeah, and I've met with specifically the City of Columbia and the county. As Mr. Breeden said, each different municipality controls those lights. City of Columbia controls them off of one system. They can change the lights to any settings that we want to start or to stop whenever. Days that we're out of school, they don't necessarily come on. I know the Bear Creek Pike corridor, they really try, if school's not in session, to have those lights turned off because it creates such an issue out there. We can, and we have fielded calls, I have this year, for lights that were not working properly. I know the backlight at Culleoka was not working properly. We contacted the county and they fixed it. So they keep all the maintaining of them, and like Mr. Breeden said, this is really the first time from anything that we can discover that the school system has been brought into the question of furnishing any of them, providing anything like that, other than just saying, when do they need to be on, when do they need to be off? And we've set a schedule with the City of Columbia specifically. They were the ones that said, we want a set schedule so that the lights come on and go off relatively at the same time. They know that Bear Creek may need a little bit longer window than West 7th does in front of McDowell, but we set very specific parameters as to when they come on and when they go off. So.
Are there any schools that do not have these?
Spring Hill Middle.
That's the only
it.
one?
Yeah.
Okay.
And in working with the county, what they're going to do is not only provide the two lights that are the flashing lights, and they'll be the solar paneled ones like you see recently. They're going to go all the way up to Beechcroft and all the way over to Old 31, up across from the coffee shop by Spring Hill High School, and start putting signs that direct you into Spring Hill Middle, because unless you know where Spring Hill Middle is, it's kind of hard to find. So they're going to start putting some signs, and we actually got the STARS logo, the General's logo for them, and they're planning on making the signs, I think, in maroon or burgundy, and then they're going to have that logo on it and divide you in. So they're going to do that, and they're going to put up some extra speed limit signs along Cleburne, and then on Beechcroft. And of course, Beechcroft is undergoing big development, but they're going to do that from both ends and try to direct you to where the school is.
Mr. Dudley?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I certainly think it's a good idea. We need lights at each of our schools. Marvin Wright. Shortly after the construction of Marvin Wright, there was a flashing light out there on what's the main, Port Royal.
Port Royal.
It lasted 30 to 60, 90 days. I don't know what the school system paid for that or the city of Spring Hill. The pedestal is still there, but you know, we need to make sure if we're erecting these lights, that they're maintained and taken care of. I don't know what happened to the light there at Marvin Wright, but it's not there.
And I think that part of that was that and Mr. Breeden, if I misspeak, let me know. In talking with the city of Spring Hill, they would really like to push that school zone to Derryberry Lane only. Port Royal, especially at the first of the year, and it's subsided a lot. That car line was backing all the way up onto Port Royal and creating issues. I think just through discussions that light may have been something that they actually said, we're going to take it down, because if it slowed traffic down on Port Royal, that's kind of not their goal. And I think that they want to really contain that to Derryberry Lane. I will follow up specifically about that light, but I think that was their goal, was just get it to Derryberry only.
But also now that we have more development on past Marvin Wright. We've got traffic coming in from the other direction. So I think we need to look at doing something on each end or each side of the school there.
Yes, and specifically, there was a point in time at the beginning of the year when the traffic was so bad, really when we started discussing the need for the loop in general, where the city of Spring Hill, where the police department asked us to enter Marvin Wright with our buses through Jim Warren Road. So we were actually coming in that back way and coming up Cobblestone through the apartment complex, which is not designed for buses to come through, but that's how we were doing it. And yes, we probably definitely need to extend that down on the other side, because when those lights were installed, the school was it, and then it was just a path after the school. So yes, we can discuss that and look into that with them.
Okay. Thank you.
Ms. Moritz?
Is there any reason that the city of Spring Hill isn't partnering on this instead of the school district?
In talking to, and I think I've kind of been the one that's talked to the road department, there's a lot of animosity between the county government and the city of Spring Hill over Cleburne Lane. And you will notice if you travel it that it's been paved really nicely, and it has lines on it coming in from the Petty Lane entrance from the 31 side. The county did that. The remainder that goes up to Beechcroft is just a chip and seal road. Where that pavement stops is where Murray County Highway Department says they don't do the road anymore. They say that's Spring Hills. City of Spring Hill says we annexed around it, but they don't annex the road. They kind of do that. We found that out in some neighborhoods where we've needed road repairs, that they say the yards and the land is actually the city of Spring Hill, but the road's not.
So have you actually talked to them and asked them to partner with the
The
county to do
highway
that?
department did, and they were turned down.
Okay.
Mr. Pennings?
Well, I think maybe somebody has to get tough with the city of Spring Hill and remind them that we are not county government. We are the Murray County School Board, and we're supposed to keep their children safe and educated. And unless they do their part, we can't keep their children safe. And besides all the growth, they're getting more money. I think somebody just needs to get a little tough, probably like Mr. Williver did with them not paying the tax on the drinks.
Kind of like, again, we were kind of pulled in after the fact, just with some specific requests.
Well, but before we approach them with a hostile attitude, we changed administration at City Hall in Spring Hill has changed since the middle school was built. This administration for the school system here, as far as our superintendent, has changed, and I think the city and county, we've got better relationships than what we had in the past. So I'd like for us to try and pursue it with them, and I know Mayor Graham and Vice Mayor Hull, they've been supporting our school system coming to the functions at Spring Hill High School, and I'd like to see us approach them and see if they would be willing to help us with some traffic issues. I know Mr. Lay has had some contact with you, I believe, Ms. Pearman, in trying to help solve some of our issues. I know Spring Hill did ask me to ask the administration they're looking at improving sidewalks, adding some additional sidewalks, and then they had enough concern to ask about the need for sidewalks going to Marvin Wright. And so I think we can have a better relationship. And so I'd like for us to try.
And I'll say, and then I'll kind of step back. I think we've got it, when we've met with each group individually, they're very willing to help. I think that maybe some of those disagreements are beyond us. They're not anything we had anything to do with. So.
Mr. Bates?
Well, and I agree with Mr. Dudley. I think this is a new day. I think there's new opportunities for partnerships, and what's happened in the past is in the past. And so this is a new day going forward. And so I would like for us to continue to develop those relationships. And I think we are in the process of doing that. But maybe sometimes, when we got issues like this, maybe it might be helpful to just get all the people together, and kind of have a little group meeting out there and, hey, let's try to figure this out. Let's make it work. Because I think we all probably have the same goals. Maybe we could kind of move beyond some of the past history. And if we have to, as a school system, be the intermediary and be, to try to resolve some of those differences, I think that benefits everybody.
Ms. Parker?
I think obviously the safety of our students is paramount, and that's most important. I do have a little bit of concern with any other government entity purchasing things and then having a purchase order issued and having lights ready to be put up and saying they would like for us to pay for half, only because this time it's only a little less than 3,000. In the future, if we were to have 15,000 or whatnot, I just think that there's a little bit of a precedent that we could be setting, and so I hope that while this is with our county, and they're obviously one of our funders, and so I think that we probably should cooperate on this one. I hope that other government entities, county, city, whoever, won't just assume that we're going to always pay half in the future.
Thank you, Ms. Parker. And actually, I would like to agree with that. That was one of the concerns I had. And I know when this was presented, it really was a request to pay half. I think they were fully prepared to, and they did. They went ahead and ordered these with planning to put them up because they recognize it is a safety issue they do want to take care of as well. And so I think this really was a well-meaning request. Just say, could you help with half? I don't think there was any expectation there. I do, as you mentioned, have some concerns about setting a precedent, which is why I guess moving forward, what I'd like to see is us really kind of look at our procedures on how this takes place, which is why I was asking about the other lights. Again, we're about to start building additional schools. This is going to be coming up every time we do it. I would make sure that if we could have some clear, whatever you guys figure out they are, I think it would probably best just have some clear guidelines of this is how it needs to take place from now on. Perhaps that means getting with the city of Spring Hill independently and/or the county, figuring out what we're going to do moving forward. This may be a great discussion, kind of stepping off point for us to figure out how to do this moving forward. That way we don't revisit this every time, and we can save you guys from having to kind of battle it out on that. Right. But that said, on this, do we have a motion on this, or does someone want to take other action? Mr. Oh. Okay, so we do have a motion to approve this from Mr. Dudley. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second from Mr. Bates. Did you have some discussion on that, Mr. Bates?
Yeah, I do just want to make clear that, and I think this is a good thing, a gesture of goodwill, but I do agree with Ms. Parker that we don't want to set a precedent, and I agree with Mr. Moore that we need to get some clarity on this. And so going forward, I would suggest to central office, if you all are having trouble getting clarity as to, legally who is responsible for this particular road, I would suggest maybe getting in contact with Mr. Walliver and maybe, if necessary, maybe getting a legal opinion or maybe some legal guidance or guidelines for on any given area as we start, because I think it's a good point that this is probably not a one and done. This is probably going to be a thing that's going to come up in the future. So it would be good to just have some clarity as to, okay, if we're doing this in this location, this is what the law says as far as who is responsible for these traffic lights. Now, the law is not always absolutely clear, but maybe there can be some guiding principles that we can fall back on instead of just being caught in that, well, I'm not responsible, you're responsible, that sort of thing. There should be some more clarity on that, I think.
And we can certainly, I was going to add that, again, we didn't really initiate this. This was initiated by the county. Because of the fact, and again, I don't know legally this is the case, but it appears to be the case that we're not responsible for traffic control. That's the responsibility of the municipality who's in control of the roads. We can't go out and write traffic tickets as a school district. We can't go out and post speed limit signs. We can't post, which is what this is. That's the city or the county or whoever controls that road. And so when this came up and the county approached us about it, our first response is, well, this is the county, and they said, well, we want to help out, but we'd like for you to bear part of the cost. And it was just an unusual request because, again, we've never put up road signs in any place where we've seen a need. We've made a request to the municipality, and we haven't really approached the city of Spring Hill on this. And I want to make it clear that in all the things that we've talked with the city of Spring Hill, we've found them very cooperative. We've not had any lack of cooperation. They've been very good to help us with the traffic issues at Marvin Wright. We talked about those earlier. They do have some concerns about Derryberry. What's changed, Mr. Dudley, you mentioned that a while ago, not Derryberry, but on Port Royals, they built a fire station on Port Royal that didn't used to exist there. That really wants them to keep the traffic flow open on that road in case the fire trucks have to come out. So there's a lot of things we've talked with them about on that. But I say all that, we can certainly try to work with the different municipalities on that and try to find out. But as far as we know, as far as we could look back, school's never been involved in posting road signs as far as traffic control. School district has around our schools. That's always been the municipality who's responsible for the road.
Mr. Penning, discussion on the motion.
Well, I totally agree with setting a precedent in that, but I mean, it's been said here tonight that we have a new administration in the school board. We have new administrators in Spring Hill. I think before this was brought to us, maybe somebody from management should have went to Spring Hill and said, hey, we have this problem. Let's see if we can get it solved. Has that been done lately?
We have not, again, we're not the one who initiated this discussion. This was initiated by the county and the county road department. And so we have not tried to be a go-between to say, the county road department thinks this, and us go to Spring Hill and say, well, you work with the county road department, but if that's what you all think we need to do, we certainly will try to be the intermediary between those two. We've certainly tried to work with them as a school district, and we've not had any issues with that.
And that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, has anybody from administration went to the new people in Spring Hill and said, look, we have this problem at the school. There's no warning lights up there. What can be done about getting warning lights up there, and get the feeling from the new administration in Spring Hill?
We haven't done that, but we could do that.
I think it should be done.
I guess, were this motion not to pass, and that would be, I guess, an avenue that you guys could definitely follow up on before it were to be brought back to us? I see a yes on that?
We could, yes, sir.
Okay.
Could we table the motion until contact is made with, as we were talking about? The side of this is the safety of the kids. And, you know, if this is a one-time thing and they know that that's the way it's going to be, then I don't have that big a problem with it. But I'm like, y'all don't think we should set a precedent?
Let me mention one other thing that may contribute to this. And Mr. Perriman and I discussed this today. We have no students, 0 students, who live within the parent responsibility zone around Spring Hill Middle School. We have no walkers to that school because of where the school is located. We have students who walk to every other school we have. So that's probably a little bit of what might have driven this in the past, that we never considered it to be a safety issue because we don't have any students out on those streets. Now, we have cars driving on those streets, but in all other cases, we ask the traffic to slow down because there's students walking. But there are none at Spring Hill Middle because if you've been there, you know there's no houses around Spring Hill Middle. It was built out kind of in the middle of nowhere, as a phrase we use in Middle Tennessee. So while there is a safety concern, it really is just a traffic issue. There's nobody walking on the streets there.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yes.
But I'd also like to point out, Spring Hill is also approved subdivision. I don't know
Yes,
at
sir.
what point.
And it will change. Yes, Mr. Dudley, you're correct. That will change, but that's the currency.
And just a clarification, they're already going to put them up. The safety, they're just asking for kind of a refund or a reimbursement or a splitting of the cost. They've issued the purchase order. They told me before fall break that they figured by the end of November, these will be up. So they're going up one way or the other. I think, as you said, it was initially a request just to say, can you help us offset some of this cost? Because it was not a cost that was budgeted into the county road department budget by the commission, so.
I would just, on discussion on this, I would just say I'll be supporting this, but I would, with the understanding that our administration does need to go ahead and I guess this would be a good discussion point to start talking with all the parties involved and definitely nail down how we need to proceed in the future. Any other discussion on this motion? If not, all in favor of this motion, say aye. Any opposed? No. All right. That did pass with one no vote. All right. Moving on to the next item is, let's see, item number 6, bid number 17-036, HVAC controls at Mount Pleasant Elementary.
In the, forgot to say how y'all doing tonight. Just on that cover page that I wrote, that's probably after Mr. Breeden's memo or recommendation, it says that we've received $49,310 grant money from Energy Efficient Schools Initiative. Paul Cross, just to clarify, if you don't know who Paul Cross, he works for the state, and he's kind of a guy that goes out there and comes to the schools to say, hey, there's a certain amount of grant money that we can be a part of and get if you do this, this, and this. So we submitted some paperwork back to him, and he was able to get us this $49,000, assuming that it's put back into the school system for energy efficient things. And software, we specifically asked if that was an energy efficient funding project that we could use, and he said yes, it was. So we're just asking if we can take, and we already have the $49,000. We've already got that back. We've got it approved. It's in a line item in a budget that we're just ready to spend it. So we're just asking if we can put this money to use at Mount Pleasant Elementary School to automate the plant system there, which is basically the boiler room and the boilers and things like that.
And let me just clarify, if I could, Mr. Hall. This was a grant that was actually applied for three plus years ago. The grant was applied for based on the work we were doing with Train. So the fact that we did the work with Train, we were able to apply for and get this $49,000 grant. So the money's sitting there. The only stipulation is it has to be used for EESI, the Energy Efficient Schools Initiative in Tennessee. Started out with a program of grant money, and they issued so much grants to the schools, and again, we applied for it. It was before either one of our time when the grant was applied for. And the money's been sitting there. What we had to do is we were awarded the grant. We then needed to show that work had been done to receive. So when we showed them what we just completed with, then they gave us the $49,000. And so we're now looking for opportunities to bring you recommendations of how we use that to further make energy efficient improvements. I will tell you that they also have a program where they do loans, low-interest loans. We have applied for and been approved for a low-interest loan that we could do some energy improvements things. We're waiting for Train to bring back their next review of all of these things that came out of the assessment to see if there's anything that would qualify for those loans. The school board might have chosen, to take advantage of. I think we've actually been approved for up to $1 million in loans and that's I think a 0.5% repayment program that you have to do. So if Train comes back with something we could use those loans, we'd bring you a recommendation on that as well.
Okay. Mr. Bates?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Reed, so as far as the grant money, are there any strings attached?
There are no strings
Just made the
because this one we've
application.
already met. We met the qualifications. This is actually a refund on some of the work we've already done. They've given us the money to refund us for the work we've already done with Train.
All right. Do we have a motion on this? Okay, we have a motion and a second on that. Any more discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor of that motion, say aye. Any opposed? And that does pass unanimously. All right, next item is item number 7, sound panels at Whitthorne Middle School.
Just to kind of maybe update some of the folks that we had originally approved most of this work first of the summer, I guess. And since some of you weren't here, what we did, originally we had, as you can see on the letter, $30,000 roughly allocated to make the band room more acoustically better. They had some old green carpet up there. We ripped that stuff off with some contractors, repainted that. And so as we've been tearing down things at Central High School, we happened to notice that in the old auditorium, they had these sound panels, and we realized that we could reuse those. So we reused those, and so what we were trying to do this summer was, with the fabric that we were able to get, to reskin those sound panels. Well, as it turns out, and Graymere Church of Christ actually volunteered this summer to say, hey, we can help do that. Well, we tried Plan A, Plan B, Plan C, and as we found out that it takes kind of a special adhesive that you put on the front and then also a special adhesive on the back. We tried staples, we tried everything. It's kind of a fiberglass loose. It's not like driving a staple in through a piece of wood. It just wouldn't hold. So we've reached out to some folks that actually know what they're doing, and meaning that I didn't. So anyway, as far as sound panels goes. So this is what we're trying to do now is we found a company that can do this, that can take the fabric that we already have purchased and really just take the labor and put the adhesive on it. And then we're planning on, we'd like to be able to get this done and have it done by winter break.
All right. All right, having read this, do we have
Motion made.
Okay, Mr. Dudley has made the motion, and we do have a second on this as well.
Can I discuss it now?
Yes, sir, we can. Mr. Dudley?
Are these the same sound panels that when we were doing the train project at Whitthorne, we realized that we had the problem with them then? The initial $1 million train project out there?
Actually, we took the carpet off the walls in the band room and just painted the block behind it. These panels actually came out of Central's auditorium?
Central's auditorium.
Auditorium, and we were going to repurpose them by using them in the
well,
band room.
I'm saying the same band room.
Yes, it
But
is the same band room. Yes, sir.
We've been fighting this sound panel issue 2 years or better. I'd like to say is get it done, because if we don't, we're going to have another embarrassing newspaper account, just like what was in this past Sunday's thing dealing with their bathroom stalls down at Hampshire. You know, this is something I feel like we need to get corrected. We've batted around stuff, been trying to get it accomplished all the way back to then. And then so, you know, I'd love for us to get this done and get it behind us. And I know it's been before this board 3 or 4 times.
Okay, we have a motion. Any more discussion on that? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of this motion, say aye. Any opposed? All right, that does pass unanimously as well. I do not have anything else on there. I can entertain a motion to adjourn. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned.
I'm just going to make a quick announcement. We did previously have a special call meeting, but that was for a hearing review, and so some of you all, I'm sure you all saw that we got a request to cancel that from the party that initiated the appeal, so that we will not be having that special call. Thank you.